I'd like to thank you all for joining us for our regular council meeting this evening, February 22nd, 2007. At this time, I'd like to ask you to join us.
Somewhere back.
I'd like to
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, although we have a lot on the agenda today, most of this is also here for the fourth or fifth time, so it is my expectation that we'll probably be out of here by 8:30.
Oh, you had to say that, huh?
I really believe it. I gotta be right once, right? It's like
You
a
do.
broken clock. A broken clock is right twice a day.
Works for me.
All right, let's go.
Is your mic on?
No, it's not. Thank you, Finley. Okay, upcoming town council meetings through March. Monday, February 26, 2007, deadline for posting warrant and budget. Thursday, March 8th, 7 p.m., regular council meeting. In case any of you have missed that, it appears we're not meeting March 1st. Is that correct, Vice Chair Spence? As of this minute? I know you're going to say
This
that.
minute, we are not meeting.
And me
That's
and you
correct.
will be having interviews that evening.
Yes, we will.
All right. Thursday, March 13th, 2007, deliberative session at 7 p.m. Wednesday, 14th, 2000, deliberative session if necessary. Thursday, March 22nd, 2007, 7 p.m., regular council meeting. State news. On Wednesday, February 28th, 2007, at 5:30 p.m. at the Hudson Community Center, 12 Lyons Ave, Hudson, New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Department of Transportation will hold an informational meeting to discuss the circumferential highway. Information flyers are available tonight at Tracy's table. The Merrimack Parks and Recreation Committee and Parks and Rec Department have scheduled the 15th Annual Winter Carnival for Saturday, February 24th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Wasserman Park. On Wednesday, February 21st, the Merrimack Parks and Recreation Department will sponsor a bus trip to the New England Spring Flower Show at the Bayside Expo Center in Boston. The bus will depart from the Wasserman Park parking lot at 9 a.m. and will return to Merrimack around 4 p.m. Okay, there's also another one coming that I got a sneak preview of today, and I'll tell people to listen to, is I guess the Recreation Department is also doing one of those duck bus tours in Boston. And anyone that's ever tried to get reservations, sometimes you need to be a month in advance on that. So that would be a great opportunity. And I think for bus and everything, that's around $40. But I bring that up. That'll be coming up shortly. For more information about either of these events, please call the Parks and Rec Department at 882-1046. I would like to thank the Merrimack Village District for providing us with water this evening. Okay. And I have a couple of other quick things. The first thing is we are coming close to starting up the Economic Development Committee. We've had a lot of great interviews, and we've had a great amount of people interested. Again, we have been keeping this going for a while because we're looking for the best people that will help meet our needs. And we will be having interviews next Wednesday. Anyone interested, again, if they still want to be on the committee, can call Brenda at Town Hall at 424-2331. And we'll also be doing interviews from 4 to 6:30. And again, this is a blank slate. This is a new group, and we're looking to bring commerce to town that will work within Merrimack's framework. And everyone is welcome, and we certainly would, it'd be nice to have some people that do have the business backgrounds, but anyone is welcome to apply. Okay, the other thing, I've attempted to get a confirmation on this next one with no luck, but I really believe it's such a positive thing that I'm going to go out on a limb and go forward with it, is one of the pet peeves of anyone that's in town office is getting people informed of what's going on in town and when voting time is, and again, understanding the warrant. And any help we can get as a town is usually a positive thing. In fact, it is positive. Well, there's a new website out, www.merrimackvotes.org, and from my understanding, it is a very informational site. It is not partisan. To my knowledge, they are not backing any candidates. It's been put out there purely to help people understand the process, and that's what its mission says. And I have to say, it's a very, very well-done site. Every day, like today, when you go to it, it says what's going on in town. It says about the public hearing being held tonight, lets people know what offices are going on, and I believe they're going to be, informing of it. Again, to this moment, from what I understand, it is purely informational, and if it was anything different, I wouldn't be bringing it up. But it's a great site, and I've learned stuff just looking at it. These people have done a great job, and I would suggest people go to www.merrimackvotes.org. And again, I think it's going to be a great tool for people with access to the internet to really help navigate around our whole process. It says when deliberative session is, it mentions many, many things. So, great site. I take my hats off to those that have stepped forward to, again, help the people in Merrimack as government, I won't say gets bigger. I don't want Mr. Malzone to come walking through the door and hit me with a book. But as it gets more complex and as the town gets more complex, anything individuals can do to help is great. Again, great website, www.merrimackvotes.org. All right. Anyone else have any other announcements? Then we go to recognitions, resignations, retirements. We have none. Appointments. We have none. Comments from the press and public. Okay. Anyone have anything to say? We have none. And next up, the public hearings, and just to give a heads up so there's no confusion as we go, one of the things, as I've mentioned, that we've tried to do as a group is go to the people that best understand an issue sometimes, and I've certainly passed the gavel many times to Betty Spence and to Tom, and as we do this public hearing, I will be passing the gavel to Betty for item number 3. She will handle the session involving the proposed warrant articles. And I will be passing the gavel to item number 4 to Tom Mahon, who will go through us with the Merrimack Charter. So in case there's any confusion during that, I'm giving everyone a heads up. With that being said, let's start up with the public hearing for Police Department request to accept radio equipment from the New Hampshire Department of Safety. Captain Doyle? You know what you guys remind me of now? The old Oakland Athletics. You never knew which uniform they were going to show up to the ballpark with.
Whatever uniform pleases the council.
He knows how to speak.
Tonight I anticipated blue was the color of the evening.
You're it, baby.
I think he learned well.
Oh, you should have seen him. You should have seen him when he was 21 years old, talking to all the cashiers at Bradley's. What a smoothie he was back then.
We prefer not to go there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, Mr. Hickey, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come before you and ask that you authorize the Police Department to accept radio equipment valued at $10,110 from the New Hampshire Department of Safety. The radio equipment, which would include portable radios, batteries, mic clips, chargers, and belt clips, which purchased from funds allocated to the state of New Hampshire by the United States Department of Homeland Security. The grant funds were approved in January of 2007, and basically they entail 6 portable radios with associated equipment. These radios are digital. They're APCO 25 compliant. They currently work seamlessly with our in-place digital voting system. This brings our portable digital radio allotment or inventory to a total of 37, which really has been our goal for a number of years now since we initially received our first allocation of radios about 6 years ago. This brings our portable radio allotment up to a point where we can provide a portable radio to every full-time responding officer in the event that we have a catastrophic or tragic situation in town where we would require that kind of manpower response. One other condition associated with receipt of these radios is that they mesh seamlessly with our current interoperability settings, meaning that they are compliant in the sense that the radio frequencies that are programmed into the radios are standardized across the board, and that has already been undertaken. What we did is we actually got what's called a code plug from the state, which senses an idea of what the radio frequencies are for the different LawNet operating police departments and fire departments around the state so that the interoperability issues associated with that whole initial LawNet program are compliant. So we have complied with that, and I would ask at this point that if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Any questions for Captain Doyle? Tom?
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. You have radios and radio equipment and batteries in the budget for next year, is that right?
We have radio batteries, that's correct.
Just radio batteries. So this doesn't help us at all in alleviating that, or does this alleviate some of the need?
No, this is
Yeah,
additional
this is-
over and above what we had anticipated. This is actually, I want to say, the second phase in a series of funding that the state underwent about 6 years ago when we invested heavily, or the state invested heavily, in the LawNet program. And what they did then is they tried to allocate as many portable and mobile radios across the board to those interested in cooperating agencies. Merrimack Police Department was one of those. And we had enough to get us up and running, and the goal at that time, at least the state's goal and our goal, was to make sure that every radio or every officer had a portable radio if they needed one. With this allows us to do just that.
Now, does this give us a radio for every on-duty officer, or does this give us a radio for every officer, and whether they're on duty or off duty, they're in contact?
Ultimately gives us a radio for every full-time officer that's employed by the police department. These 6 will add to the 31 we currently have, which will give us 37.
Right.
We have 37 full-time officers in the Merrimack Police Department.
Okay, so they will have one assigned to them and keep it round the clock. And
Ideally, that's what we're going to try to move to do. Right now, our staff officers and our first-line supervisors, lieutenants and sergeants, all have a radio that's directly assigned to them, meaning that they take it home, they're responsible for it, they have a battery that they can use to recharge, so in the event that they're called out to a scene, they can come readily and equipped. The other radios, the ones that are assigned for our patrol division, our operations officers, are actually set up in a charging bank down in the patrol squad room so that the officers, as they come in for the start of the shift, can grab a radio that's been freshly charged for about the last 16 hours. But this will allow us, God forbid, that we have to have the full force of police officers from the town come to the scene or come to a scene. They can respond, pick up a radio, and we don't have to worry about scrambling for radios.
okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions from the council? At this time, I will ask if there's anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak to the issue. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:17 p.m. And ask for the pleasure of the council.
I move that we authorize the acceptance of radio equipment valued at $10,110 from the New Hampshire Department of Safety.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Finley, seconded by Tom Koenig. Discussion on the motion, Finley, is there anything to say?
No, I think it's a good thing. No matching funds, it's even better.
All right, I see no other hands. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, a couple of quick housekeeping things, Dave. I did want to just let everyone know that you see the 2 empty seats. Council Malzone is still on the honeymoon and should be returning to town tomorrow. And Nancy Harrington, Councilor Harrington, is still on family vacation in California and will be returning this weekend. And I would like to ask if the council would have any objection if we were to, before going to public hearing number 2, if we would go to legislative updates from state representatives to allow Representative Christensen, who has already had a very long day, to come forward. Is there any objections from the council? All right, very good, Chris.
Thank you. Always nice to have an assistant. You ever see that in the public campaigns? There's always somebody behind you with a tape recorder and it'll give you the name. And
He keeps saying that to us every day, but sometimes none of us have heard him.
Myself straight at this point.
well, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I'm Representative Chris Christensen, representing Hillsborough District 19, which, as you know, is the town of Merrimack. I think the most pressing question is what's happening with the funding of the courthouse. And let me just give you a little bit of background. Today at noontime was the last day for committees to finish and act on bills that would have to go to a second committee. So the clock stopped at 11:59, and 3 or 4 hours later, everybody had pretty much finished their work, and the clocks started up again. So it was a hectic day, and each committee had its own workload. There wasn't a lot of back and forth between committees. However, when we had the presentation in front of the Public Works Committee a couple of weeks ago that Councilor Mahon and Town Manager Hickey were at, I guess I can call him Attorney Zybel, who works for the for the Judiciary Department, Judiciary Branch, also was the one that gave us the information that at that time had moved us up into third place in line behind Cheshire County and Merrimack County. It appears now from a conversation that he had today with Representative Maureen Mooney, who's on the Judiciary Committee, and that's where he kind of hangs out, that they're moving us into a line item on the budget. The capital budget has not been presented to the Public Works Committee, but it will be after. Next week is our winter break week, and then after that they'll get that budget, and they are planning to put in a line item, $7 million, for a district courthouse in Merrimack. Now, when we get to the, and they're going to push very hard for it, is what we were told. So that's all good news. Now, the difficulty with that is when we go to the Public Works Committee or when they formulate their budget, they want to know that there's some land available at no cost to the state to put that building on. So that's going to require some finesse from you folks as to how you go about that. I know we've talked at various times about a variety of pieces of land, some owned by the town, some not directly owned by the town, but maybe by the water district or somebody else. I don't want to go into that kind of stuff at this point, but certainly within the next, whatever your schedule is, with minimal delay, if you will, when we get to that hearing process week after next, I think that's when it will start. We'll need something that we can
Can you give me a date?
hand to them.
After next? An approximate date, just to get it in my head?
I don't have a calendar with me.
Our next
The
meeting is
fir-
the 8th, so that's where I'm really looking, is before the 8th or after the 8th.
It's 2 weeks from tonight is the 8th.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm just curious if we're going to be meeting before this deadline. That's where I'm coming from here.
I can't say. It hasn't been scheduled yet. They haven't actually received the budget yet. It's hard for them to predict the scheduling. I'm just saying that. That's why I say kind of without delay. And I know that some of these things might require, if you want to do a land swap, for example, with some other body, that maybe that's something that needs to go on the warrant, or maybe it's something the town council can act on. I'm not familiar with that process under the town council form of government, so there may just be some research there that needs to be done. In any event, if we can go to them and say, well, we have available to us 2 parcels, 3 parcels, or this is the one, and make your choice, then you've pushed things back a little bit because they have assurances that there is a piece of land. And if they want to come down and look at them and say, okay, we like this one better, or this one will cost more to develop, or whatever the reasons are, that to me is sort of a negotiation thing, and probably best not done here I mean, negotiations occur in non-public session usually. So I think we need to just give them some assurances at this point, and the stronger wording you could put to those assurances, the better off we are. I understand if there's things going on that can't be done in a short period of time, then I think they understand that process as well.
Well, one thing I would definitely feel very comfortable going on the record with is, I would say there is going to end up being a few different parcels that will be available to the state, but as you said, we still need to, in non-public, decide which one there are, but at this point, I think we're in great shape. It's going to be a matter of which ones do we offer up and which works best for the state, but we're certainly a lot farther along today than we were a month ago when you stood before us.
Well, when we get to that point, if Councilor Mahon is available for that purpose, or anybody, but he's there, so to speak.
He's our man.
And he's been very loyal in coming up to the State House and making the case for the town on a variety of issues. He was up there the other day for tolls. I'll leave it up to you how
Okay.
that's done, but that's the step. They're basically planning on something that is modeled after, or they're trying to use the similar plans as what they have in the Dover courthouse, and it's a $7 million project.
Okay.
So we're looking for $7 million in bonding. And I think that's good because, remember, originally, we asked only for a couple $100,000 to do some engineering studies and so forth. It appears they're leapfrogging that, and they just want to press right ahead.
Okay. And is this the family court they're talking about, Chris?
Well, it would replace everything that goes on here in the district court.
Yeah. But I'm just saying the word family court has been bandied around the last couple of years.
They would try to include that. I'm not sure this is capital budget versus operating budget, and it might be a matter of if it takes a year and a half to build the building, then the operating cost for family court might go into the following biennium's budget, and they would just use these existing personnel and operating expenses and so forth when they first moved into the building, and then add family court at a later date.
Okay. Anything else?
That's speculation on my part,
Yeah.
by the way. I don't have anything else. I do. This isn't exactly town meeting stuff, but I think it's good news. We had a kindergarten funding bill that the committee approved, Education Committee approved today, and one of the bills, at least one of the bills relative to tolls, didn't fail. I don't say it passed, but it hasn't failed. They voted on it to retain it and study it and work on that issue. So as long as they're keeping that issue alive, I think we've got reason to be pleased with that.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And I appreciate what you brought forward because that lays the groundwork for what I'm going to say next. And you have basically shown that the clock is ticking and the urgency, and even though we're in good shape, we need to begin finalizing. And with that being said, I'm going to look at my fellow councilors and say we need to do a non-public, I believe, for next Thursday.
There blows the concept of no meeting, huh?
Well, I mean, I'm listening, I'm hearing, and the real world is, unless Tom's going to say something that's going to help me here, the real world is we can't wait till we need next week to sit there and decide, dance to pay the fiddler. What do we have? And move forward with it. And I think in between time, that's going to mean our friend Mr. Hickey is probably going to have a lot of work on his hands. Is that correct or an incorrect? Or is it so underhandled that we could just do it right now?
Well, we've had conversations in the past about what available land there was. I am meeting with the school board, I believe, Monday, March 5th, to discuss with them any possibilities the school board may have to be willing to either give or sell land to the town. I've also sent a letter to the state of New Hampshire asking them to determine if there's any available state property that the courthouse could be placed on in Merrimack. That letter went out today. I think you either got a copy in your box this afternoon or you'll have one tomorrow. So I guess my concern would be that if we did it next Thursday, I'm not going to have any type of feedback from the school district at that point. And I assume I won't have anything from the state at that point either. The town parcels that we've talked about are somewhat limited as far as what the town has to provide to the state for a courthouse at this particular time. And I can try to refresh that list, We've also tried to speak to a couple of developers. We have not heard back from the developers yet.
I really think that's where we need to press, because I'm still pushing, I want the meeting Thursday, because the real world is what we talk in Thursday negotiation may affect what goes on with the school board on the 5th. I mean, if we look around and we say this is the only game in town, or there's 2 or there's 3, it affects, but I don't think we can wait to the last second. I think we really need it. What we've done for the past 3 months is shoot arrows in the air. And some may have landed, some haven't. We all kind of have different feels. I may feel real confident. Tom may not feel as confident. And as Chris Christensen has said, we can't exactly sit out here and talk publicly about it. So I think I really, unless someone objects, I don't like meeting either any more than I have to. But I think we need to get our hands together and find out where we all individually feel on this issue also, about the negotiations and whatever. Yes, Betty?
Dave, we have scheduled, you and I have scheduled, or potentially are scheduling interviews on that day. Are we going to change that?
Well, the answer, originally we had said the interviews would be 4 to 6:30. Now, based on what times the council wanted to meet at 7 o'clock, then we could still probably keep them. If the council wanted to meet at 6, then I would publicly right now just change the interview time, since no one's called yet, and make it 4 to 5:30. I'm willing to listen to anyone out there. I'm just saying, I don't think, well, as Chris said, the phone's going to ring, and they're going to say they're hearing it this day. I really think we need to sit down next week and get a feeling. Betty?
I would recommend that if we have a non-public hearing on March 1st, that it start at 7 p.m.
Okay. It won't be a hearing, it'll be just a meeting, right?
Yes.
Non-public meeting.
Okay, great. Can you hit I'll go to you last since you're pulling out your thing.
I'm all set.
Okay, 7 o'clock, non-public Thursday?
I scheduled for 6 o'clock anyways.
7 o'clock, non-public? Tom?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Finley? Okay, and Keep, are you still okay with the interviews then, or do you want to cut back the interviews to give us a little
No,
time?
let's
in
get it
between?
done. No,
Right,
I'm
4 to-
open. I'll stay here as
4
long
to
as we have
6:30.
If
Okay.
someone feeds me.
Okay. And we will meet then, and Chris, it would be my preference probably that during that meeting, we will give, I would hope, we will give authority to Keith to speak to you the following day, to keep you up to breast on what has went on during the negotiations the evening before, so that you're not out in the dark.
That's great, as long as I'm clear on what I'm allowed to say and not allowed to say.
Yeah, exact, no, absolutely, and we'll get that, and the main thing will be, like I said, just so you've been spearheading this, and I don't want you to be in any way not understand what's going on from our end, and like I say, part of it, we need to put it all together in our own heads, to
Okay.
exactly where we are.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
and I'm always glad to make fans of my fellow council members. All right. Yeah, you're right. Change of use fees at the transfer station. Again, this is also a public hearing, number 2, submitted by Chairman McCray. Council to hold public hearing on using fees at the transfer station pursuant to Merrimack Ordinance 138-4 fees. Now, the question I have, and again, I will look at Keith, Tom, Finley, Betty, Tom Koenig, anyone that can answer. As we go through this process, and this is the first ordinance we've gone through, after we do the hearing tonight, are we able to vote tonight, or do we have to wait till the next meeting?
We have to wait at least 7 days.
Okay. So in theory, that would be March 8th if we decided to move. I know that's not 7 days, but we're not planning on meeting publicly right now, so, okay. All right.
The charter specifically prohibits you from voting on any ordinance on the night that it's heard. You have to wait 7 days.
Okay. All right. Then Keith, I'm going to ask if you mind reading the ordinance, or would you like me to?
You're awfully good at that. I mean, I'm happy to if you'd like, or you can, it's up to you.
I'll read you. The town of Merrimack ordains 138-4 fees. Household solid waste generated within the geographical limits of the town, but excluding, parentheses, I'm going to stop right here. Do we have some extra copies of this?
Should be in the packets.
I have it. I didn't know if anyone else out there wanted. I actually thought there was a gentleman that was here specifically for that, but we can give one to Tim and Mr. Kozabek. Okay. But excluding the items listed in 138-4C, bulky metals and metal scraps in excess of 1,000 pounds, vehicle parts, vehicle bodies, hazardous, nuclear, and other illegal or unacceptable materials may be deposited at the facility free of charge, provided that refuse is hauled in a private, not-for-hire vehicle having a net legal load limit of 1,000 pounds or less, unless the individual can demonstrate to the satisfaction of the facility attendants that the waste is entirely from his own household residence. 2, refuse is properly separated and deposited in designated areas. And 3, a decal available from the town clerk is displayed conspicuously. B, all commercial, industrial, and agricultural uses and operations in the town of Merrimack shall pay a fee of $110. I'm doing that because this hasn't been changed, it appears. Or help me here, Keith, talk to
I'd
me.
like to, if I don't mind, if you don't mind, I guess I should say. The $110 change needs to be noticed in a public hearing, so we're doing that now. We'll have to have
I'm confused on that.
we didn't publicly notice that we're gonna be changing the demolition fee to $110.
The demolition fee?
The $40 to $110. That's what the $40.
I'm saying we did a public hearing,
That
though.
happened years ago.
We did a
Oh,
public.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, we were saying this, it just wasn't
Yep,
changed,
yep,
but
yep,
we went
yep,
through the legal
Yeah,
process.
I apologize. Yes, that will be changed. I apologize.
Okay. All right, I'm going to read that again, just not the confusion. Is all commercial, industrial, and agricultural uses and operations in the town of Merrimack shall pay a fee of $110 per ton of solid waste to dispose of solid waste at the facility. Amended by Board of Selectmen, I believe that was 2003, so we'll need to change the amended date on that, also showing the date when we actually moved it from 40 to 110. Okay. I'm going to take a step back here because I know I've watched these meetings before, and at this point I'd be shaking my head saying, what is he saying? We're doing a new ordinance we're reading tonight that's going to really involve the cost of what it's going to cost to drop off a refrigerator, air conditioner, and that. But as we're reading it, we have to read the whole ordinance. Back about 3 years ago, we changed the amount to 40 to 110, but this copy I was given this evening didn't have that change. So that's where the confusion's coming. The cost is 110. It has been 110 for the past few years, and it will continue to be 110 since this ordinance does not touch it. So I'm sorry for the confusion, and we will move forward. C, and this is really the crux of the matter. All persons will pay the following items, depositing the following items shall be charged the associated user fee. Passenger tire, $5 each. Truck tire, $10 each. Off-road tractor tire, $15 each. Propane tanks, 20 to 30 pounds, $5 each. Refrigerators, $15 each. Air conditioners, $15 each. And computers, $10 per unit. We discussed previously our definition of a unit is if you show up with your computer, the brain of it per se, and the monitor, we'll consider that a unit. If you decide to do it in 2 trips, you'll be paying twice what you want to because each one will be a unit. We're not going to cut the price in half. That was at least the discussion of the council at the time, and I feel obliged to clarify. The town council of Merrimack shall have the authority to revise the fees charged commercial customers per ton, per trip, or by such other means they should deem fit, including the authority to charge and impose fees for the disposal of solid waste requiring a special handling. Before the adoption of any such revised fee schedule or before the imposition of fee collection for the special handling of certain materials, the town council shall hold a public hearing, and they shall publish a notice of any fee increase in a newspaper of general circulation in the town at least 30 days prior to the implementation of any increase or implementation of a new fee schedule for the special handling of certain materials, and pursuant to Merrimack Charter Article 5. Tipping fees charged for household refuse generated in Merrimack and brought in by commercial haulers shall be the same irrespective of origin within the town. Again, the part that is before us today is charging these fees for the items. I am going to reread C again because I feel it's important. This is what the change is. People will be paying $5 for a passenger's tire to drop off, $10 for a truck tire, $15 for an off-road tractor tire, $5 for propane tanks, $15 for refrigerators, $15 for air conditioners, and $10 for computers. And as we have stated before, this is not a profit center for the town. We are not looking to make any money. Right now, as it is, people drop this off and we have to pay equivalent to these fees to get rid of them ourselves. Currently, this is being handled through our tax base. The tax pays, your property tax is paying for most of this stuff to be removed. We are looking to change that from the tax base and have it so the person that drops off the refrigerator is paying the $15. And also, if there's been situations in the past where there have been establishments that charge individuals $15 to drop off their refrigerator or other unit, and then that person takes the $15 from the person and then drops it off at the landfill for no charge. And again, that's being paid by your property taxes. We're trying to make it fair. So anyways, that is the reading of it. And at this time, I will ask for any comments or input from members of the council. Tom?
I don't mean to get, we'll see what happens. The $40 per ton on section B that's
I'm going to
listed here.
jump in, Tom. I just want to know, let the record show the public hearing was opened up at 7:34. I'm not sure that I said that. I just want that in the hearing. Thank you, Tom.
The public notice suggested that people could look at whatever it is that we were going to be discussing. And I'm guessing this is the document that was available for them to come and look at. And you changed that document today in reading it. And so I'm not sure the public notice has been officially met in that you didn't really have the document that you intended to discuss. Maybe you did, I don't know.
Well, our attorneys were asked about that 2 weeks ago when we talked about the change. And at this time, I'm comfortable that it was met. But we will have until next week to enact it, and in between, we can do a double check at that end. In other words, we're not going to be enacting anything this evening. I think you brought up a very pertinent issue. And Keith, if you can come back, and that way, before we do anything, we'll make sure it is, and if not, then we'll go through the process.
Okay. The propane tanks, it says on here 20 to 30 pounds is $5 each. What happens if it's over 30 pounds? It's free?
I think that's it, Tom. Good point on that one. So, anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we know how much money we're talking about bringing in with these increased fees?
It's about approximately $68,500. $68,500 annually.
Keith, about how many propane tanks do we have come in a year that are over 30 pounds?
Well, I don't honestly know, but I will try to find out that. I can't imagine very many.
Yeah,
I wouldn't imagine very
I'm not aware
many.
that there are.
And I guess in section D, it says that we'll publish a notice of any fee increases in a newspaper 30 days prior to the implementation of the increase. So if we were to act on this 7 days from now, which is the earliest we can act on it, we would then have to make a publication in the paper of the fee increases and wait an additional 30 days before those fees would be implemented. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, that is the understanding. At least that is what was talked about a couple of months ago. Yes, at the time that we voted, we cannot say starting tomorrow you pay these. We have to put an advertisement in, and after 30 days from the publication, the rates would go up at that time. And I think that's only fair. I mean...
Oh, I do too. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure I understood it. You read it. I didn't know whether everybody else understood that as you read
Yep.
it. And, so
No, I
thought it was
appreciate
about-
everything you're doing. These are all good points, and especially, we have it in front of us. People at home, it's very difficult to follow this if you don't have it. And I think they're all excellent points. And again, that we may actually decide to wait. 30 is what we'd have to. We may decide to wait longer than that also. I mean, maybe to give people one last grace period to clean out their cellars before we move forward.
I'd appreciate that because I got a few computer units I need to get rid of.
And I got several propane tanks myself.
Procedure question. Do we have to stipulate in here? Or is this the stipulation that this will become effective 30 days? I mean, now that we have the charter, that's my confusion. now that we have the charter, we had the first reading, this is the public hearing. It goes to vote on March 8th.
When we do the vote at that time, Betty, we will put a start date will have to be in the motion that will at least meet the 30-day requirement.
Okay, will it have to be, and this is considered an ordinance? Do we have to put the effective date on the ordinance document that we will be voting on March 8th?
Yes. That should be reflected in whatever we do, that what
Right.
the effective date is.
And the effective date will be 30 days after March 8th?
We don't know that.
It could be, it has to be at least, if we follow the language in the ordinance that we're proposing, it would have to be at least 30 days after the adoption.
My
But we could
recommendation,
extend that.
yeah, my recommendation personally is I'm going to ask for it to be April to let people finish their spring cleaning and just have it so we start with a fresh slate. But again, that part of it we can do as part of the motion, and we can hash that out then. I'll recognize you, Finley, a second.
Okay, I just wanted to know the format that would be required for March 8th and whether we had to, at the time that we had the document in front of us, whether it had to have the effective date on it, or if we can add that and then,
It is my understanding that what we have to have in front of it is to change is the amended date. We'll go with the amended date and effective date. So we will vote on the article as it is seen, and then when it's typed over, it will say amended and then effective. It does not have to be what is in front of us, because as we sit here, we are not going to know what it is. If anyone disagrees with what I'm saying, feel free to speak.
No, that's part of the reason why we put the 7-day delay on it, is to give people a chance to think about it and to get additional input from the residents about the issue, so that when we return to take final action on it, we may want to consider, anytime we would adopt an ordinance, we would have to put an effective date on it. But just as we're proposing with the language with the amendments to the charter, okay? It'll take effect when? Immediately, it'll take effect in 30 days, it'll take effect in 60 days. I mean, there's no imperative in the charter or in state law that requires us to pick a specific time to adopt. Okay?
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. I also, as we're on that subject, I want to touch base on Tom's earlier comment and the mention of an error in the, as it was advertised, and I had stated at the time, I had mentioned the attorneys on that. And the reason that, and Keith will double check, is that this can go forward is there was no change, the error did not affect the change of the ordinance and its pertinent data. In other words, if the mistake had said truck tires were going to be $20 each, then it would not have been acceptable. But where the changes that have come forward, the $40 typo, is what I'm calling it per se, did not affect any changes that were made this evening, that we're not changing it. But if we had put $30 for air conditioned 15, then it would have changed what we were voting on tonight, and people that may have showed up for a $5 change or may not have, may have showed up for 15. So again, that's why I feel comfortable, but we'll hear what they say. But again, the typo did not affect what we're working on this evening, and we'll find out. Yes, Tom.
If I might, I guess what frustrated me is last time we had a meeting and this was brought forward as the first reading, I pointed out that error, and we all agreed that that was an error and it should have been 110, and yet it's still here in this exact same form.
I guess it falls under the fact that we're all human beings, Tom, and I don't know any other way to put it. We're human beings. It was pointed out and we didn't correct it, and now we'll check, and if that mistake costs us something, we'll move forward.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Tom?
You got a question? Oh, okay. The prices here you said are the costs that we incur.
They're
I guess
approximate cost, yes.
I haven't turned in tires in a while, but last time I bought tires, which was not too long ago,
Yeah.
they were only charging $2 to take in the tires, and so I let them do it because it was going to cost me $2 to drop them at Merrimack. I mean,
And I paid $6, so I guess I ought to go to your place.
okay. That's what I was curious about.
On that too, Tom, I'm going to take that one step further, is if anything, we did say that if we were going to go a little higher, we would go higher and not lower, because the feeling is we did not want to be coming every time our supplier charged us more. We didn't want to be coming to the people and nickel and diming them. So the goal was to be very neutral, but in the end, if it came out that the average tire, whatever, no used tire, was $4.30, they may have rounded up to $5, saying we've talked to people in the industry and the feeling is this will hold true for such a period.
Okay.
We definitely are not looking to make money off the people
but-
using it.
And a truck tire as opposed to a passenger tire is more substantial than just something you'd find on a small truck? I mean, are we talking about something other than the small pickup truck, or how do we distinguish something quite that carefully?
A truck tire is characterized as a large truck tire, not a pickup truck.
I believe they actually have a diameter at the transfer station they use now. If you want, maybe you can bring that forward for the meeting next, but I believe there's actually a guideline on what diameter, at what point it passes and becomes a truck tire. Yes, Tom?
What about the tractor tires I've seen up there? Is that included in this?
I would say.
Only the off-road ones.
Right.
Well,
Excuse me.
the ones I saw could be categorized as off-roads because they go on a farm haul.
Right. I think that's what they would be characterized as, an
Okay.
off-road tire.
All right.
Okay, do we have anything else?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Computers. That's a very specific term, and you were talking about monitors. Should we not change that to cover that? Otherwise, somebody's going to come in, and we're going to be arguing over, is it a CPU? Is it the monitor? Is it, I mean, what are we talking about
Well,
here?
again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we were bringing it's a bad thing we're bringing up now, because we actually had this whole discussion then. And at the time, the council said that we would use it as one unit. If you brought it in together, then you would get the $10. If you brought it in separate. So I'm just saying, I am kind of bothered that as we sit here at a public hearing, we're rehashing something we talked about. That's not to say we can't do it, but we did already have this discussion. I mean, we did. Watch the tape. And we said that.
All right,
What's
all
the
right,
simplest way to do it?
No, I just, never mind. I just think that to avoid that, the staff getting aggravated by that,
I guess my question is, do we redo the public hearing if we change
I
that?
don't have to.
Why not? We're
public
talking
hearing.
about,
Public hearing is all about.
The public hearing is to determine the form that this is going to take.
okay.
Okay, and I just think it needs to be
Computer-related items or some computer-related?
computers and peripherals.
And I would also want to, I mean, there's an obvious void here, and TV sets and things like that are not on here. I don't know if you discussed those, I wasn't at that meeting. TV sets, DVD players, VCR recorders, game machines, all of those kinds of electronics are the same kinds of things that computers cost us to get rid of because of the fact they have electronics in them, and you can't just throw them in the landfill or throw them in the incinerator.
In fact, on July 1, you're not going to be able to.
Well, at any time during this discussion, I will take motions to amend this article by any member of the council that would like to amend it to change it so that it may better fit our needs. Would anyone like to make an amendment?
Well, what's the cost for the TVs and those items?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of what the cost is, if any, at this point, or what it would be after July 1st, but I'll certainly find that out.
Okay.
Yes, certainly.
Back to when we originally did discuss this, these were items that were brought forward, I think by Ed, but I could be mistaken. I think
was.
It was Ed that night. And I was under the impression that these are items that he knew we were charged for, and I don't know if it makes sense that TVs would be in that mix.
They go in the same trailer, and they have a
Do
big
they?
sign
Yeah.
saying you can't pick through here. We're
And the
paying to
ones-
get rid of them.
So I think if in fact there are charges for it, which makes sense that there would be, I don't know that I'm set to make a motion, because I don't want to be having to make another one to accommodate, things that just weren't covered on a whim right now tonight for me to do it. But I think it is something that should be addressed, because we're trying to cover that whole array of items.
Okay, Betty?
We also discussed, at a prior meeting, we also discussed cooking stoves and microwaves, I believe.
Well, the stoves, we said we weren't going to charge for,
Right.
and I'm not sure of the microwaves. Okay, could someone give me the protocol on how I would move, what if we wanted to recess a public hearing? How would you do that? Could you do that? Because I'm beginning to have an uncomfort level as we sit here, and
I may try to, if I may, I may be able to shed some light on where we are, thanks to our well-trained finance director. The computers, from what Paul's told me, electronic equipment, if we change the title of computers to electronic equipment, that would take care of TVs, VCRs, DVD players, and that was the intent, I believe. So computers is probably limiting the scope of what that item is. It should be $10 per unit for electronic equipment.
so if you brought in a computer with a monitor and whatever they call the brain there, would they pay $20 or $10?
I think if the council, it would be $10 for a CPU and a monitor if it was brought in together. You brought a TV in, it would be a $10 cost, VCR, $10 cost, that type of thing.
What about a printer?
Printer.
That's an electronic equipment.
I know, but
think-
would it be part, if you brought in a printer, if you brought in a monitor and a computer and a printer, you consider that all one unit?
What would be the process for recessing a public hearing?
Move to recess the hearing
Till when?
March 8th.
till March 8th.
Okay, then I would be very willing to take a motion, because even despite what we hear on this thing, I think we owe it to the people of Merrimack to recess this so we can come back properly prepared for where we are on these items and with the motion. Okay, if anyone would like to take a motion to recess, I'd be, not even a motion, I have to make it, don't I?
Pardon?
If it's a recess, a motion isn't made to recess, a recess is done by the chair.
No, that's a meeting recess.
So you want to table it then?
Table for
Okay,
date.
Betty?
I move to table discussion on this public hearing until March 8th.
Okay. Before I ask for a second, I'm going to say, does any other publication have to be made now that this is being tabled? Okay. Then I have a motion to table made by Betty. The second. Motion made by Betty, seconded by Finley to table this. And normally there's no discussion, but I am going to recognize Tom.
I just wondered if you could check to see if there's anybody that came from the public that has a comment before we table it, so that they don't feel like they wasted their time.
I would not do that. The motion has been made.
Well, I understand that.
Okay. So the motion has been made and it has been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay?
Motion passes 4-1-0. Keith, if we could get this taken care of and also get the wording corrective on everything and get the effective for when we change it to 110, that'll be great. Thank you. And I would like to take a second back to go into Tom. Tom, if I had thought of it, I'm in agreement. I would have brought it. We had not reached the public part, and if I had thought of it the way you had, I would have allowed them to be in. But after I had already asked for a tabling, and we had a motion in a second, I just thought it was two wrongs don't make a right, that we'd already been in. So I did appreciate it, and if it had come up before the motion to table, which you did not know was going to come, I would have been. But that was my thinking, right or wrong. Okay. Next up, we have proposed warrant articles submitted by Chairman David McCray. And again, this is public hearing number 3. Council to hold public hearings to discuss the following proposed warrant articles. Okay. And before I move forward, going under the thing that it's never too late to do the right thing, does anyone have anything they'd like to say about the last public hearing before we move on? Does anyone have any input? Okay, so if everyone's good, then we will move forward. Thank you. All right, proposed warrant articles. Council to hold public hearings to discuss the following proposed warrant articles. At this time, I will hand over the gavel to Vice Chair Spence, who will handle this warrant article as it goes, this item as it goes through the public hearing. Betty?
Thank you. We have 3 warrant articles for consideration under this public hearing. I would like to declare the public hearing open at 7:58 p.m. The first item that we have is consideration of installing fencing along the perimeter of the Merrimack Transfer Station, which on the warrant will be Article number 5. Is there any discussion?
Hang on a second, I'm sorry.
Article number 5.
Do you have a warrant with an article number 5 on it?
Right
Is it-
here, here you go. Number 5, is that it?
Okay, updated February 16?
It's, yeah,
Oh, it's a draft, right? So,
yeah, I'm working off the actual warrant. Number 5,
okay. Thank you.
is that?
I'm all set.
I'll open it up for discussion.
This has it?
This will be one of the
No.
first articles that we need to make a recommendation on for the warrant for this evening. Just bringing that up as a reminder. So you probably, if there's no objection, we probably want to do one at a time, and if there's no discussion from the council,
I have a question. I'm not sure how we would do one at a time. Don't we know when we do the whole public hearing and then close it and then do votes, or would we be voting during the public hearing? That's my
no, I'm
question.
going to do one at a time on questions.
Okay.
And then I'm just reminding everybody that this one, before we wrap it up, we'll have to have
After the public hearing is closed?
Correct.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I wanted to go back, we were on Article 5, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because this is a public hearing and not very much of the public has showed up, but we did advertise it in the paper, I just want to ask a couple of questions so we make sure everybody understands. The $30,000 to install fencing is not going to completely enclose the Merrimack transfer station, is that correct? Or will it completely enclose?
That will completely enclose the transfer station. There is some fencing in place now that will be added to, the idea behind this is to eliminate the graffiti that's been going on, the vandalism up at the transfer station. That's the premise for adding this fencing.
Okay. I guess I thought that we had said earlier that the reason we changed the wording to install fencing along the perimeter was that we didn't think it would completely enclose the transfer station property or something like that, and so this would close a loop all the way?
Isn't the perimeter what would enclose the property?
Well, along the perimeter doesn't mean you would close it all the way, just somewhere, some reasonable facsimile along the perimeter. I'm just trying to be clear on that.
Keith,
How
is it
much
gonna
fencing
close
we're going to
it?
get.
Yes, my understanding was we added the word perimeter so people were clear as to where the fence was going on the property itself, rather than, I think we just had installed fencing at the transfer station previously, and that wasn't very descriptive, so we added perimeter to make it
That
a
was,
little...
it was around,
I'm sorry,
and I
around.
asked that it be changed along because there is fence there.
Right, and we're going to add to
And
that
this would
fencing.
imply that we were doing the entire area, when in fact there's already fence on.
There's some fencing there, so we're just
some
going to meet up
fencing
with
on-
that fencing.
Right, and this is just to fill in that, open area.
And the perimeter of the transfer station is not going to include the closed landfill and things of that nature. It's just, I mean, okay. And I don't think you read it out, or maybe you did. This is non-lapsing for 3 years or 2 years?
I'd be happy to read it for the record. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $30,000 to install fencing along the perimeter of the Merrimack Transfer Station? This is a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, 6, and will not lapse until all the fencing is installed or by June 30th, 2009, whichever is earlier.
Thank you. I'm not trying to be a pain.
Oh,
I'm
I
just
understand.
trying to make sure we do our best to get the public informed of what
Absolutely.
it's about. Thank you.
Welcome. Are there any other questions? Comments? Any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, I will close this public hearing at 8:03.
I guess what I'm pointing at is I don't think you can, that's what, me and you haven't been
Oh,
connecting well.
okay, no,
We
you're
need to
right.
go
I
through the
need
whole
to go-
public hearing
Yeah,
and then we
yeah,
go.
You're right. Let's go down to the next one. The next one is usage change of property purchased for new library to any municipal use. This is an article that I believe was actually put on public hearing notice. But since that point, we have had discussion. And I know I, for one, had recommended that, I had said that I did not want, had no intention of, number one, proposing the library site that currently exists to have that changed for the courthouse. And at the present time, I had no interest in bringing forth an article to the voters at this time to change the usage of that property. David?
Betty, my feeling is we can just move right through this. I mean, and just acknowledging this was published. Since then, the council has taken a vote on the record not to move it forward. And I would also ask the people that have been picketing my house, they can stop that at this time. So, but I mean, I really think we could talk about it, but I think we've already voted, and since it was on the thing, we had to acknowledge it, but I think we're good.
I just wanted to make that clear, and I didn't know if anybody else, it is a public hearing, so I wanted to make sure everybody had, council members, if they had anything else to address regarding the subject, we could just...
So we're not addressing this, is what it sounds like.
Well, I don't think there's
Which is
anything
good.
to address because
I
it's
agree.
not going on the warrant, but I just think I needed to clarify and give a bit of an explanation of why we had put it in a public hearing notice,
Right.
and now we weren't taking any action on
I
it.
agree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? So let's go down to the third one, which is the Town of Merrimack Charter Amendments. And that is going to be the, actually, that one is going to be discussed under public hearing number 4, which are amendments to the Town of Merrimack Charter. So at this time, unless there are any further questions of the council or the public, I would close this public hearing at 8:07 p.m.
Okay.
What is the pleasure of the board? Would you like to start with the first one? David?
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to recommend Article number 5, which you have previously read. It has already been moved to the warrant, and I am making a motion to recommend it to the voters.
Second?
Did you second it?
I did second.
Okay, great.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of recommending the Article number 5 pertaining to the installation of fencing along the perimeter of the Merrimack Transfer Station signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 500. The next one, no action is necessary on. That's the one we just discussed about the usage change of property. And so now I guess we're done with this public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much, Betty. I appreciate it. At this time, I will pass the gavel to Councilman Mahon, who will run public hearing number 4 through its entirety.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I declare the public hearing on the amendments to the Town of Merrimack Charter opened at 8:08. We have 5 items to consider under this public hearing. This is the public hearing that's required by state law that we hold it. And articles, what is listed as Article 9 through 13 in the draft or in the document that we're working from are the articles that we're dealing with. The first item in here is Article 9, shall the town approve the charter amendment reprinted below by deleting the language indicated by strike-through and inserting the language as indicated in brackets and bold type. The amendment shall take effect upon passage. Article 3, Section 4, conduct of elections. Open bracket, the election official officers shall conduct regular and special elections on the date specified by New Hampshire state law, close bracket. The election officers shall use a nonpartisan official ballot system as detailed in the election laws of the state of New Hampshire on the second Tuesday in April to choose town councilors and such other officials as specified by this charter, each of whom shall be elected by the voters of the entire town. And this language is proposed to clarify some confusion over whether that section dealt exclusively with the annual election, the annual municipal election, and all other elections, and as it was intended to do. So that's why this language is in here. So if there's any discussion from any members of the council on the item, seeing none, we'll move to, is there anyone from the public? Seeing none, let's look at Article 10. Shall the town approve the charter amendment reprinted below by deleting the language indicated by strike-through and inserting the language as indicated in brackets in bold type? The amendment shall take effect upon passage. Article 3, Section 5, preparation of ballots. The town clerk shall prepare separate ballots to be used at all local referenda and elections at which town officers are chosen. The ballot shall contain in appropriate sections the names of all candidates listed, and the strikeout is in alphabetical order. The insertion is open bracket as prescribed by New Hampshire state law, close bracket, without party designation.
You do this very well. Now I know I had you do it, man.
Thank you, Sister Mary Benita. Forensics, 1963. Anyway, this was.
That was 6.
This is. There was a state Supreme Court case last spring that dealt with the order of candidates on the ballot, which invalidated the section that we had listed in here, which the Charter Commission lifted from several other charters that were in existence at the time, and which was the state law at the time to list it in alphabetical order. As I noted before at an earlier meeting of the council, there's at least 6 bills that deal with this issue, and that's why I recommended that we put in here as prescribed by New Hampshire state law, because that'll take care of it. They'll pick some method of the 5 or 6 that they've got before them in the legislature and come up with a way of dealing with the issue. And that was the intent of this amendment. So if the council has any other, does the council have any other comments or questions on this? Anyone from the public? Oh.
Tim Tenhave, 72 Amherst Road. Those of you who served with me on the Charter Commission know that this is a minor pet peeve, but can you please spell out New Hampshire and not leave it NH?
I presume that we could do that if that's the desire of the council.
I have no problem with that.
Finley?
I think that's what we did
Yeah.
throughout, and I think Tim's just reminding us that even if we do that once, we should remain consistent.
In other words, and that's what we did, right?
That's
Well,
what
everywhere except in that second part of, or in the
Okay.
description part of Article 10.
Okay, thank you.
Well, in brackets, it's currently NH. That's what was published.
Right, but we'll make the adjustment. Okay.
Excuse
Go
me,
ahead.
these ones, and I think you probably said it, I just want to re-say it. These ones are really just clerical adjustments because state law would trump anyway what's in our town charter, and so this would happen regardless of whether we change it, but
Yes.
it's nice
Yeah.
to make it look appropriate and correct and all that.
Right. And as we were going through the other charters, we were coming across things, when we were reviewing the other charters, we were coming across things that we knew that were not legal for 10, 15, 20 years, that were still contained in there because they had never gone back through and cleaned out the language or changed the language to reflect state law. It would not make any difference anyway, one way or the other. If we retain that, it would be ineffective. And we could end up like the town of Seabrook, who had a special town meeting that dealt with 37 changes to their charter. Okay, because they had let things drag on for so long and ignored so many things. So this is just to stay current. I mean, this happened within weeks of the charter being adopted. Article 11, the next one, shall the town approve the charter amendment reprinted below by deleting the language indicated by strike-through and inserting language as indicated in brackets in bold type. The amendment shall take effect upon passage. Article 4, Section 3, selection of chair and vice chair. The council shall, by affirmative vote of at least 4 of its members at its organizational meeting, choose one of its members chair, the item being struck for a term of 1 year, the item being inserted, open bracket, who shall hold office until their successor is duly elected by the council, close bracket. The council shall choose one of its members as vice chair for a term of 1 year as being struck, and inserted, who shall hold office until their successor is duly elected by the council, who shall act in the absence or disability of the chair. In the event of a vacancy occurring in the office of the chair, the vice chair shall serve out the unexpired term. The chair shall be the official head of the town for all ceremonial purposes, shall preside at all meetings of the council, and may speak and vote at such meetings. Is there any, again, this was,
Just appears to be a minor typo in the copy I'm looking at.
there's a dash in there.
No,
Well,
purpose.
it said, last line says proposed, and
Oh.
you wrote it as purposes, which is,
Oh, okay. Purposes.
Should be an S instead of a D.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and somehow a piece of strike-through got stuck up in the connecting sentence after that last bracket on the council chair. So again, this was something that we discovered when we were organizing back in July. That was not the intent of the Charter Commission, certainly. And this brings us into conformance with the other parts of the charter, which deal with electing chairs and vice chairs or officers of committees or commissions, and to make that consistent that they shall hold office until their successor is duly elected by the council. Questions, Tom?
every time you get overly specific, you leave yourself open to some issues. And so here, where it talks about the event of the vacancy occurring in the office of the chair, the vice chair shall serve out the unexpired term, doesn't explain anything about replacing the vice chair or having a vice chair should that happen. Is that not something we care about, or is that taken care of elsewhere in the charter?
Well, it's taken care of, but who shall hold office until their successor is duly elected by the council? It just reverts back to that language. Whereas if it
Well, except the unexpired term now says, well, okay, so the duly election can happen anytime. It doesn't have to happen at the organizational meeting?
the duly election, of
Until they're
their
duly
successor?
elected. Yeah.
If somebody, for instance, if David will resign and you want to, you would hold an election to fill that position. The language, yeah, you're pointing out the language is in here. It was meant to cover the 1 year piece. Okay, David?
I was just going to say on that is, I agree with, as it's written, if I was to resign, it ain't happening, I'll die first, but if I was, Betty would be it for the unexpired term, period. There'd be no election according to wording. But what I want to say is, by doing the rules and procedures the way you did, I mean, you've covered successes. If something was to happen to the vice chair during that, there is an automatic thing that the next person in would be the planning board person. I'm just saying you don't necessarily need a vice chair because you have still put down succession in there. So if Betty was to become the vice chair and something happened to Betty, then Tom would automatically, if we showed up, would be the chair. So I'm just saying, I don't think at this time it needs to get into it because you have put in your rules and procedures, you covered that. That's just my 2 cents.
I'm just curious, because it seems like it suggests that the organizational meeting is the only time you can make selections.
I'm agreeing with you there. What I'm saying is, if I was to leave tomorrow, let's not say that again. If I was to leave tomorrow, Betty is chair, okay. The next meeting, Betty doesn't show up, okay? By the rules and procedures that govern us,
Yeah,
you would be the chair.
I understand that.
So what I'm saying is, I guess we could spend 20 minutes, but I think we have it where we could continue. I think we can move forward based on other stuff we have done to protect ourselves.
Okay.
Well, all right, I won't belabor it. Questions, other comments? Members of the public? Member of the public. Article 12. Shall the town approve the charter amendment reprinted below by deleting the language indicated by strike-through and inserting the language as indicated in brackets and bold type? The amendment shall take effect upon passage. Article 5, Section 2, form. Any ordinance which repeals or amends an existing ordinance shall set out in full the ordinance sections or subsections to be repealed or amended and shall indicate matter to be omitted by, and the strikeout here is enclosing it in brackets or strikeout. And what we have in here, omitted by strike-through type and shall indicate new matter by enclosing it in brackets and using bold type, whereas before it was underscoring or by italics. And that was one that I suggested to the council to bring consistency to what we used here. The intent of that specific form of doing that was to mirror the similarity of what the state legislature does when it amends bills. And when I went back and looked at the bills, this is what they used. Strike-through is the formal language used on the word processing program. So that's why that word got put in there. So again, this is just trying to, I also thought that italics or bold type would be better than underscoring or italics because of the lighting in some of the venues we use for voting. The lights they use in there make reading 12-point type tough, and when you get down to smaller type on some of the ballots, it's really tough, just because of the way those lights work. So that's part of the reason for that. Questions from the council? Comments?
Is the descriptions in the first part, is that by law that it has to be indicated in brackets and bold type or stuff?
No.
Or that's just the way we worded it because that's what we're going to change it to?
Right. There's no requirement in any law that, I mean, it's essentially a rule of the legislature that they do it that way. There's no requirement for municipalities to adopt this form or this format. But we felt that the Charter Commission felt that that was a better way of handling the situation, so that it would appear to be clearer, at least to us on the commission, that it would be a clearer indication of what we were changing.
Okay. I thought you or somebody was looking into the book of the RSAs and there was a prescribed way to start out a charter amendment. And
Oh, yes, there is.
Just the first few words, or?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's shall the town approve the charter amendment reprinted below.
And then everything else is added into
And
the
everything else
clarity.
we added in, just so that people would have an understanding of what they were looking at as they read the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
And finally, the last one is, excuse me, Article 13, shall the town approve the charter amendment reprinted below by deleting the language indicated by strike-through and inserting the language as indicated in brackets and bold type. The amendment shall take effect upon passage. Article 9, Section 4, conflict of interest. In this instance, it's Section C, subsection C, a situation, which is a definition of conflict of interest, a situation or circumstance in which an official or employee or a member of his or her family, directly or indirectly, has a financial interest aside from his or her salary greater than any other citizen or taxpayer. That's the language to be struck. And in brackets, the language to be inserted is a situation, circumstance, or financial interest that has the potential to cause a private or personal interest to interfere with the proper exercise of a public duty. Again, this is a reversion to, this was the matter we discussed, I believe, back in October with Mr. Barry of the Ethics Commission. And it was his concern that we had changed that from the original language that was adopted in the ordinance back in 2003, and that he would like to have it changed back the other way to the language that were proposed, to return it to the original language. When the Charter Commission considered this, it was the opinion of the attorney that the language that was contained in the original piece was overly broad and would have difficulty being enforced, or that it would cause them difficulty if they brought an action against someone trying to use that language. And so the commission amended the language to read what is currently contained in the charter.
You lost me, I'm sorry. This wording that we're trying to add in is wording that's currently contained in the charter?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
No, this is reversion back to the original language as the ordinance was adopted in 2003.
Okay.
We're deleting the language that's currently contained in the charter.
That's what I thought, but I
Right.
thought the last statement you made was they reverted it back to language that was in the charter, so I got lost. This is what's in the ethics document today.
Today, conflict of interest is defined as a situation or circumstance in which an official or employee or a member of his or her family directly or indirectly has a financial interest aside from his or her salary greater than any other citizen or taxpayer.
That's what's in the charter.
Correct.
Okay. What's in the ethics policy that was passed, and then what, superseded by the charter?
Was superseded by the charter.
Okay. That's where I'm getting confused. Sorry.
I apologize for not clarifying that. Questions, comments?
For the record, Tim Tenhafe, 72 Amherst Road. My main reason for coming out tonight is this, this proposed amendment. What was just spoken to by Tom, I don't believe is completely accurate. If you actually go to the administrative code, you'll actually find that the wording is different than what's proposed here in this amendment. I may be wrong, but I went ahead and I looked up using the administrative code that's available online, and I believe that's accurate. I hope it is. If not, please correct me. But the wording, I believe, says, as a town official, board member, or employee, you shall not participate in any matter in which you or a member of your family have a personal interest that may directly or indirectly affect or influence the performance of your duties. That is very different than saying what I'm reading here, which says that a situation, circumstance, or financial interest that has the potential to cause a private or personal interest to interfere with the proper exercise of a public duty. What really kind of, I guess what brought me out here is that whole term, the idea of a proper exercise of a public duty. Our attorney, when we went through the Charter Commission process, was rather clear that what we were even proposing earlier was too broad. I think this is extremely broad. If not, it's extremely subjective. When you talk about what's proper and what's not proper, that really gets into looking at how I view things. I mean, I could view the activities of a certain board member as being improper, when in fact they may be completely within the law to have acted in the manner which they did. But I may view that as improper. I tend to like the original wording much better because it speaks to the whole idea of influence. You can tell whether a circumstance is influencing someone's decision-making or could potentially influence. Determining what's proper is a really a different thing. It's a different way of looking at it. We've had some tumultuous moments over the last few years, and when you look at the word proper, I could argue that maybe certain members of the governing board at different times over the last few years may have acted improper, and this could have been used against them in a way to maybe, and I hate to use the term, but it's appropriate, maybe a political witch hunt, and I'd hate to see that happen. Really what we're asking, if we use the word proper, is we're asking 3 of 5 members of the Ethics Committee to determine whether you acted proper or not. I would really like to see you go back more towards the original wording, get back towards influence. Am I incorrect? I see you moving around.
You're looking at I've got the original article that was passed in '03, and we're looking the portion that we're talking about here comes under definitions.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Which is section 4.
And it was brought out. Right. It was defined in 2 places.
Right. And the part that you're looking at or you read from is actually 9-3. Explanation of code provisions. And that's a direct lift, if you will, from the, we just recopied that part of the ordinance in there. Okay, so that piece is still there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
What we're dealing with is the section of conflict that deals with the definition. Okay. And I think that, and when this was brought to my attention last May, I felt that there was sufficient language in the article, in the ordinance, as we propose in this, not in the ordinance, but in the Article 9, there was sufficient language in there to give the Ethics Commission guidance in dealing with the situation because of the language that was contained in 9.3A.
Okay.
Okay. However, they disagreed with me, so they proposed this change.
Well, again, I believe using the terms proper is extremely subjective. The idea of being ethical is something I'm sure we all want to do, and folks can feel free to agree or not disagree with me when they go to vote on this. But it would be my recommendation that we remove that word proper and come up with a different language. The whole reason why the commission, well, let me step back. Let me speak as a single commissioner, a single former commissioner. What drove me to agreeing to the consensus we had when we put the charter originally together and really focus on financial interests is because that's something you can gauge or you can tell. I mean, you can tell if someone was to vote for a contract to be awarded to a company owned by their brother, that someone in their family was going to benefit from an action that you directly took. That's easy to see. It's not so easy for you to step back and say, I think you acted improperly, because in the heat of a moment, you can think that about almost anyone. I would hate to see this used improperly, if I may use the term. Thank you.
Betty?
Did you say that you actually had the section on the definition?
Well,
Okay. Let me just, so that we don't waste time, I have in front of me the actual, the official ballot that's in the 2002 annual report. And under the, bear with me a minute, under Article 19, which was the vote to adopt the Code of Ethics, under definition of terms, conflict of interest, a situation, circumstance, or financial interest that has the potential to cause a private or personal interest to interfere with the proper exercise of a public duty. That was voted on and approved by the voters of the community as part of the ethics code. And that is why, upon the recommendation of the Ethics Committee, who met and wanted to change what was in the charter, which is what Tom Mahon has alluded to as to what actually was in the charter, the Ethics Committee came before the council and requested that be changed because they were having difficulty in, they weren't getting a clear direction as the Ethics Committee as to the definition of this. So we allowed them to go back to the committee and discuss it, bring it forward to the council, and the recommended language that they wanted for the definition of terms is the identical language that was adopted by the voters April 8th of 2003 under the definition of terms, conflict of interest, which is what we have on the ballot today.
Finley?
I share Tim's concerns in your comments about the enforceability, if that's the proper term, of what's been proposed here. I when my memory was jogged, I remember the discussion, because we had initially lifted the whole ethics component and put it in, and it exposes whomever to a wide variety of interpretations. And so its vagueness, I guess, is of concern to me.
David?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. And I think we asked the Ethics Committee to come forward with a recommendation. They put it, and I really think we're being very nitty-picky with the whole thing. I have no issue with it.
Tom?
I think I share Finley's and Tim's opinion on this. The whole concept of the ethics code of ethics that was voted on, I realize it was approved by the voters, but it was at least approved by 50% of the voters. I don't think it was by any means a slam dunk majority, although it might have been. Remembering the deliberative session, there were quite a few people that had a lot of trouble with the entire wording and the multiple pages and all that of the code of ethics. So much so that there were efforts to just try and remove it, and that didn't pass. But I know there were a lot of people that just thought it was superfluous and going to cause trouble for folks without gaining any benefits. So, and I agree that we did ask Dick Berry to go back to his committee and come back with something that they thought was appropriate, and that may be what's here. I just don't feel like we ever discussed it, and I never particularly agreed with the changes that they wanted to make personally, so I won't be supporting it.
Anything else? David?
Yeah, I take issue with Mr. Koenig's last statement. You know, the bottom line is we've sat here for 4 or 5 meetings, and Mr. Koenig has had all the opportunity in the world to discuss it. It is there. It has been there. This is not the first time we've seen this. And now as it comes through, I'm just saying every counselor has responsibility to do their homework and look at items. If they want to bring it up, bring it up. And at the 11th and a half hour, it surprises me. But with that being said, I'm just saying it has been there for us to discuss. This is nothing that has just shown up out of the air. Thank
Absolutely agree with you.
Thank you.
Hey.
I understand that people have varying opinions, and I'm going to try to split this a little bit in the middle here and say that I think that the chairman of the Ethics Committee came before this council, and we asked him to go back and work with his committee and come up with recommended language. He did that. It came back. It went on probably one of the very first documents that we received to keep track of the subject matter that we were going to be placing on the warrant. Now, whether anyone's opinion is that it should be changed to this or changed to that, my stand is going to be that we ask the committee to come back with their recommended, they're the ones that have to work with this. They came back with the recommended language. So my take is I'm going to respect what they brought back to us, and I am going to support it moving forward on the ballot. It doesn't require our recommendation one way or the other. When it goes to the deliberative session, it's out of our hands. It's out of the Ethics Committee hands. It's up to the voters to decide what they want to do at the deliberative session and ultimately what they want to do the day they vote. Thank you.
Anything else? David?
I ditto what she just said.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments, discussion on any of the items that we've covered under item number 4 on the agenda? Town of Merrimack Charter. David?
Not necessarily have a question, but I just have a clarification to all members of the council that as we go through it tonight for the final warrant, there will be an opportunity for anyone that would want to change their vote or vote to whether they want to. Right now, it's on there as being moved forward, but based on what I have just heard, I will give opportunity if anyone wants to change that. So I'm just saying, if you don't, I don't know if you were going to call for a vote. I wouldn't think you would, because you haven't for anything else, but I just want to say the opportunity will be given to the members of the council on this item.
Okay.
Or you may choose to do it now. Just letting you know.
I thought we already did that.
We did, but where there's been some talk, I think it's fair to, when we go through it, I'm going to give everyone the opportunity to voice, speak now, forever hold your peace.
To what, take it off the warrant?
To vote whether, not to take it off the warrant, where there has, not to take it off the warrant.
Okay,
In fact, what, I'm going to get out of this right now and go forward. There has been times when there has been contentious items on the boards where whether we had to vote for it or not, there have been times that members of the council wanted to have their record shown so that people did not think just because it was there they were for it, whether it was a money item or not. It is something that's usually been a courtesy that the chairman has afforded. Certainly during some of my time on there, that people say, I don't want anyone to think I'm for that. I myself have raised my hand a couple of times on non-money items. And each time, even though I've had my turbulent relationships with the chairs, they've always accommodated me, and I feel an obligation to treat the other councilors the same way, even though I may disagree with them. That's all I'm saying. At that time, we'll discuss it. I'm not looking to hold up this public hearing.
And part of the purpose of the public hearing is to discuss the sentiment of people regarding the issue.
Okay.
And that's the whole reason for it, because you may change your mind about what you want to do. You may change the language.
In theory, we could pull it off the ballot if we wanted to, right? I mean, it's all right.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the opportunity that, I mean, I believe it's my obligation as the chair, whether I agree or not, to provide the other members with the opportunity. That's all. I just want them to know there would be a choice. I've spoken enough.
Tom?
I have no interest in pulling it off. I'm merely suggesting that I'm not going to support it. And so if we do take a vote to whether or not the council supports it, I'll be voting against it. That's all I was trying to suggest.
Thank you. Anyone else? Then I will close the hearing at 8:40 and return the gavel to you, Mr. McCray.
Thank you very much, Tom. Great job. Thank you. I'm going to look to my fellow members. Before we do anything, I will have the town manager's report, but my question is, we're actually close. Is it the wish of the council after the town manager's report to take a 10-minute recess, or would you like to try and get through this in one area? Okay, Betty, I got you.
I would like to recommend that after the town manager's report, which I assume is going to be very brief, that we move forward with discussing the warrant, the budget, and the annual meeting. And my reasoning behind, and then take a break. My reasoning behind that is tonight is the night that we need to sign this warrant. We have already made some recommended changes that are going to have to be taken care of before we sign it this evening, which means that we need to give Keith enough time to run downstairs, make the recommended changes that we've discussed this evening. And the first item of business under old business is going to could further reflect the document that we are to execute tonight. So that would be my recommendation.
I think that makes perfect sense, unless anyone has a pressing need before then. I think that makes perfect sense, Betty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keith?
Thank you. In an attempt to be very brief, I just want to make sure the council's aware, I am finishing up Parks and Recreation Director interviews tomorrow with 2 potential candidates. The Public Works Director, myself and the Merrimack Youth Association will be meeting next Wednesday afternoon at evening at 6 o'clock to discuss concerns that the MYA has and make sure we address any issues that that may have come up over the winter time that we need to properly address in the springtime. As I mentioned earlier, I do have a meeting with the school board if the council so chooses me to attend on March 5th. And I will be taping a TV show with the Public Works Director to discuss in greater detail the proposed drainage bond that was voted to be placed on the warrant by the town council. That's all I have, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Any other questions for Keith?
I do note that the cast is gone.
Yesterday, finally.
I sit right next to it, I didn't even see that.
That's all right.
Yeah, I noticed it.
I want to make sure that council, the chairman's wife is aware of that because she was concerned last week.
Her concern was, she looked at him and says, "You still got that thing on? It's been like 3 months." I said, "I think he thinks he is he's on part-time duty as long as he has a cast."
Just, everybody was so sensitive and caring to me, I just want to make sure I didn't lose that when the cast came off, that's all.
All right. Okay. As we get into warrant, budget, and annual meeting, let me tell you how I would like to proceed, and then I will listen to input, and specifically from Betty, who has carried this through. What I would like to do is just go right off on, we have one new item that we've discussed a little bit in the minutes, but we haven't discussed a lot of, Article 8, which will involve whether we want to put it to the warrant, the change use. I did contact members of the Conservation Committee. I asked Keith to contact them as a courtesy to let them know it was forward. We did amend the agenda as required to at least let people know, anyone who was looking, that we would be talking about it. We didn't want it buried in the pile. So my druthers would be that we would speak about this, that we would have a motion to move it to the warrant if the council so desires. And then what I would want to do would be, almost all of this has been moved to the warrant in one way or another, but what I would do is get on my bicycle and just very quickly ask, are we okay with Article 2, Article 3, blah, 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 and then in the end, ask for a motion from the council to move any money articles that we may not have covered. I'll ask us for a recommendation, and then I will ask for one motion from the council to move the warrant in its entirety. Okay. Betty, are you okay with that format?
Yeah.
Do you have any other way you'd like to do it? Okay. All right. Would you
I'll
like?
let you know after.
Somehow
Or during.
Somehow I think I've done something. Article 8, would you like to introduce it? Would you like me to introduce it?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Article number 8 is an article that I actually recommended that be placed on the warrant. There was some general discussion on it back in August of '06. We also discussed it December 14th of '06, and then again on January 25th of '07. I indicated at that time that I would like the council to consider an article regarding current use change tax and the current use change tax fund. Since that point, we have not actually seen the official wording. There was some confusion as to whether it could be an action by the council or it should be a recommended warrant article. The decision was made that it would be a recommended warrant article and it would go before the voters for consideration. I will say that actually, let me read Article number 8. Shall the town vote pursuant to RSA 79-A:25, Roman numeral 4, to change the percentage of the land use change tax collections deposited in the land use change tax conservation fund from 100% to 50%. The intent of this article is that only 50% of the collections received from the land use change tax are to be deposited into the conservation fund, and the other 50% received shall be deposited into the general fund. If passed, this article shall take effect on April 1st of 2008. Just a very brief history. I think that we will have more of a presentation when we have the deliberative session and discuss Article 8. But basically, back In 1996, town meeting of 1996, the voters approved to develop this conservation fund from land use change tax. And at that point, it was allowed that the town deposit 25% of the revenues that had been collected. And we've had a few votes throughout the years, and we will go into, like I say, further specific detail. I'm just trying to summarize to move things along here. Here we are with, last year, the Board of Selectmen made an attempt to present an article that was very much like the one that I'm recommending go on the warrant for the voters to consider. And it had been changed at the deliberative session so that the original article that had been submitted by or recommended by the Board of Selectmen, that it be changed from 100% to 50-50. It was actually changed, and the wording of that was that it was Article 16, and it referenced that to direct that the town manager, in cooperation with the Conservation Commission and others, to be determined, develop an open space action plan. The open space action plan shall evaluate the current use, change tax distribution, and other available financing methods, and will develop a plan that meets the open space goals of the citizens in a fiscally responsible manner. The existing current use change tax distribution shall not be altered until the study results and recommendations are made available no later than October 2006. That article passed. Unfortunately, because of a transition in a number of things, including staffing, the desire of the voters as far as this article is concerned, it just didn't get done. And I'm not criticizing it, I'm not disputing it. What I am saying is that it's a new year. I certainly think that an open space action plan can still come forth. I'm certainly not opposed to that. But I will say that in the last couple of years, we have heard feedback from residents regarding not only taxes going up, but their objection to money sitting in capital reserve funds. I think that it's good to have money available to purchase conservation land. However, with a large balance that's currently in this fund, which is over $900,000, and that balance is after we have paid for the recent purchase of the Campo property, which the council supported. So due to that fact, and no plan to invest in these funds, combined with our ever-increasing request to lower taxes, I'm inclined to recommend that this article go before the voters for consideration.
I make a motion that we move Article 8 to the warrant as written.
Second.
Okay. Motion made. I apologize, I was so busy listening to Betty talk, I forgot who was chairman. That's the only reason I made it. I've tried not to make motions, but make a motion, motion made by Dave.
I'd rather not second it.
Okay, second, well, Finley seconded
I
it.
second it.
Motion made by myself, seconded by Finley. Discussion. I think Betty covered it all. The bottom line is, we presented this last year as selectmen. It was changed by the voters. What the change was never carried out for whatever reason. No need to finger point. But the fact is, I think since it wasn't carried out, we bring it forward, and again, the people at the deliberative session will have the same rights as they did last year to mold it as they see fit. Finley?
I have just a couple of items. Uppercase land use change tax, I didn't know if it should follow through down below. Maybe not a big deal, but,
Where are we?
Well, that's the land use change tax conservation fund.
okay, I take it back. No, that's not an issue. But the effective date, I thought, when Betty, you brought this up, you were talking about '07.
And that was where we were having some confusion. If it was an action of the council, we could in fact have made the effective date April 1st of 2007, as long as it was done prior to. But because it's going to the vote, to the voters, and it's on the warrant, the vote's going to take place after April 1st of '07.
Right.
And because of that, because the action is occurring after April 1st of '07, it has to carry till the next April.
If I could follow up then, why on Article 6 and 7 then do we have an effective date of '07?
Because the statute is very clear in Article 8 pertaining to the Land Use Change Tax Conservation Fund and this whole concept. It's very clear that the action has to occur the following year. If it's,
Okay.
it is April 1st.
I
Okay?
do remember the discussion from last year as well.
It is April 1st, but if the action is after April 1st, it has to go to the next year. If the action is before April 1st, which if the council had acted on it, we could have actually acted on it in March, and it would have become effective April 1st of '07. This action will be taking place after April 1st of '07, so it must go to the next year of April 1st of '08.
Tom?
Yeah, the law is drafted in the context of the town meeting in March. And if you had a town meeting in March, then it would become effective on April 1. But since we don't, we meet in April. We're after the effective date that's called for in the statute.
Further discussion?
I just will go back to my uppercase, then fund should be uppercase, I think.
Where are we?
Oh, I see. That's
Fund.
fine, okay.
Land use tax conservation fund.
Yep,
Keith, you got that?
I got it.
Okay, any other discussion?
I think it's a good idea. This is something that I think is appropriate. And I think it will be better served for us to have the Conservation Commission work up a plan, and I think that they are doing that, that will address open space for the community in a long-term fashion as opposed to whenever something just happens.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion? And the motion was to move this to the warrant. It had not been moved previously. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 5-0-0. Again, Betty, anytime you want to interject on this process here, please let me know.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think I can go through this quickly.
Very good.
Okay, we're back on page 1 of the town warrant.
And
Everyone has the town warrant.
I'll be handing the gavel over to Betty to facilitate this movement.
So if everybody has read the introduction and where the polling places are and so forth and so on, does anyone have any corrections to that section before we go to Article 2?
We're all good?
Okay. Article 2, we've already discussed this. Is there any typos that you see within Article 2 itself? Okay.
Betty?
Yes.
Article 2 was the bond issue.
Yep,
Okay. For the drainage.
correct.
Just so the-
Okay, Article 2.
just so the listening audience
is
has an
the
idea what
drainage
we're talking
article.
about.
Okay, Article 2 is the drainage article, and at this time, we need to make a recommendation by the council. David?
I make a motion that the council recommend this article.
Second.
Motion made by Dave, seconded by Tom Mahan, to recommend the drainage improvement project article.
Okay, can I speak to it?
Yes.
Yeah. Not to rehash all this, what I said last time when we put it to the public hearing, but the bottom line is spending good money, spending bad money. 1.7 million infrastructure is what I think will be beneficial to start the ball rolling to make sure our infrastructure stays up again. Growing a town, you do not grow a town just by cutting taxes, although, and I believe in recent years, our town to become equivalent to a bush that grown out of control and needed to be pruned back. I believe we've done that. I believe the voters have faith in us now, and now we need to begin investing in ourselves.
Anyone else?
Yeah, we asked Keith to develop some information on, and Ed Chase to develop some information on the cost that they might spend on an annual basis to essentially react to different drainage situations, and the information they gave back to us today was that their estimate is it's about $175,000 a year, which is quite close to the cost of the annual cost of the bond itself, to temporize and to repair and not to try and cure or better manage these situations. So it goes in line with what you were saying, David, about trying to manage things better.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to recommend signify by saying aye.
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 That passes 500.
If I could ask, what were you reading from? Because I don't believe I have that.
Keith handed this out.
Gives me boxes this evening. Public Works Director put that together this evening. I think it was handed to everybody in their boxes this evening. It was an estimate done by the Public Works Director, trying to identify what the direct costs are to managing some of the issues that we're having and the Band-Aid approaches that the Public Works has taken in the past regarding drainage problems.
Okay, well, obviously we can't look at it now, sorry. I didn't realize that was there. Argue?
Okay, let's go on to Article 3, and that is the operating budget. We've already had numerous discussions on it. At this point, I believe that the only action that we need to take is a recommendation by the town council. So I'll take a motion, David.
I make a motion and we recommend the operating budget as written.
Second.
Motion made by David, seconded by Tom Mahon to recommend Article 3, which is the operating budget.
Yeah, and again, not to keep this going, I think we've discussed this for several months. I think all of us have made our feelings known. I think it's time now to move to deliberative session and let the people speak.
Okay, Tom?
I guess I'm misunderstanding why we need to recommend this at this point. We've already taken votes on this when we had all 7 members here, and now we're voting again with only 5 members. What, you're using the word "we need to do this." I'm looking for clarification on that.
Well, we need to put a recommendation on, if you can, let me ask Keith, did we actually take a vote to recommend, Keith?
I believe what the council did at their last meeting was to approve and bring forward to the ballot, or deliberative session, I'm sorry, Article 3, Article 4, and Article 2, 3, and 4.
To bring forward to the ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need to recommend this?
I don't think, I think it's, again, I think it's fine to do it again, just to be safe. It's all done in one meeting and everything's fine, but the council did, I think, look to move that forward.
Yes, yeah, and I've always found there's a differentiation, if I may, Madam.
Yep.
To me, there's a difference, there always has been while I've been a selectman, between moving it forward and recommending it. We've had people move forward stuff they don't necessarily agree with, but they feel they have a right to. And I was on the understanding we had moved this forward. I was not on the understanding that we had recommended. And I thought we had to vote to recommend it.
You're right.
And I believe that's where Vice Chair, and we haven't voted to recommend it.
No, you voted to move it forward, but have not.
Right, and that's where I believe Vice Chair Spence was coming from. Now, and I also want to mention, if I can, Vice Chair?
Yeah.
I think it is, I agree with the full amount. I do think we're going to have an opportunity to look at all the stuff after deliberative session if we're looking to have the 7 votes. But I mean, the fact is, to move the warrant forward, we need to have a recommendation, whether there's 5 of us or 4 of us. Is that correct, Vice Chair?
Well, I'm looking at this warrant I'm looking at the original right now, and it does not say recommended by anybody on it.
Keith,
So-
Keith, are we in agreement? We need to make a vote.
Yes.
Okay, so so I've made my motion and Tom seconded it.
Okay,
And
any
again,
further discussion?
No, Tom
I thought
didn't
we'd
make
taken multiple
further
votes,
comment, but it would have been nice to have all 7, but I understand what you're saying.
I agree, it would have been wonderful to have all 7. Unfortunately, this is the last night we can act upon this, and it needs to be posted tomorrow with the budget, so.
there will be an opportunity for Councilor Malzone and Harrington to vote on the record after
After the
deliberative session
deliberative
for the
session.
voters to see.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of moving the operating budget, which is Article 3, all those in favor of recommending the operating budget, which is Article 3, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
2. So recommended by the town council would be 3-2. Okay, the next one is the collective bargaining unit with ASME Council 93. Article 4. On this, we've already discussed this, to move it forward to the ballot, and I think that what we need is a recommendation by the town council. Dave?
I make a motion that we recommend Article 4 as written.
Second.
Motion made by Dave, seconded by Tom Koenig to recommend the ASME 93 article, which is Article number 4. All those, any discussion?
Yeah, I will, just for the sake of Mr. Malzone, which I do for anyone else. Mr. Malzone has always made it a point of saying that he is against this for his reasons. I'm sure he will speak about it at the deliberative session, but I'm just bringing that up for the record.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor signifying by saying aye.
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 Passes 500. The next one, we have already recommended, and we had no corrections to, or typos or anything of that sort. So it looks like that page also has to be changed. The next one, do you wish to make any, Article 6 is the one on the disabled exemption, moving it from 35 to 45,000 for single and 45 to 60 for married. Do we have any further discussion on this
Do
article?
we need to recommend?
No.
Okay, great.
Okay, we'll move to number 7, which is the optional veterans exemption tax credit, which we're changing or recommending to change from 300 to 500. Any typos, comments on this one? Okay, article number 8. The one change that I have is on the second line. It's the land use change tax conservation and fund, now has a capital F. That is the only change that I have to that article. Is there any other discussion on this one? Matt?
This whole thing is very wordy and says the same thing twice, but in the second time, it talks about a conservation fund, lowercase, and doesn't have the land use change tax portion in front of it. Are we okay technically with just referring to it as the conservation fund? Or
Well,
should
and if you see fund again, it's small.
Well, I see that, and so it's,
Yeah.
and I don't mind it being small there, because we're not talking about a specific one, because we haven't used the entire title of that fund there, and so I'm just,
Dave?
I'd like to make them, despite what may or may not have been last year, I agree with Tom, as we get a chance to look at it. I would like to make the motion, make the word identical so people understand we're referring to the identical fund.
Let's look at that right now, then. Okay. It was Article 16 last year.
make the words identical with last year, or identical
No,
in
with
the
you.
reference
Just
here.
what I'm saying, despite what last year said, I think you're right on.
Change tax, collections, land use change tax.
While you're reading, Betty, if I might.
Go ahead.
And I just want to remind everyone, there's a motion that hasn't been seconded, so we don't lose this in discussion.
I don't know that it is called the land, I think it's the fact that the land use change tax has been going into the conservation fund. So I don't know that it really is the land use change tax conservation fund as I'm thinking about it right now.
That's correct.
I think it's
Correct,
just the
it's not, or
conservation
it is?
fund.
It is a conservation fund.
Right,
So they're apples and oranges, is what you're saying.
right, so,
Should be amending the first reference.
right, eliminating, I think.
Hold on, let's look at the original
Change percentage
article.
of land use change taxation deposited into the conservation fund. We should, I'm not sure.
Okay, the original,
No, maybe
when
it
we
doesn't.
set this up, it was, shall the town vote to rescind Article 20 adopted in the 96, which allowed the town to deposit 25% of the revenues of all future payments collected pursuant to RSA 79-A, the land use change tax in parenthesis, in the conservation fund in accordance with RSA 36-A:5, is authorized by RSA whatever.
Land use change tax fund.
The land use change tax is the money itself.
I'm real good to make a motion, Madam Chairman.
Before you do, I don't know if it's regarding that, but Paul just brought up that the fund is called the Change Tax Conservation Fund.
Land use change tax conservation
It
fund.
is called that.
I can add that language on the second to last sentence here, just making it the land use change tax to be deposited into the land use change tax conservation fund, the 50% received shall be deposited.
That's my motion, right? I'm saying I made that motion 5 minutes ago. Okay.
Yeah,
Land use.
second. Is that the motion you were making?
Yes,
Sorry.
that's the identical motion that I made based on what you said.
Conservation fund. Okay, so the two corrections would be under the second sentence, fund will be in capital F, and the fourth sentence down will say the land use change tax conservation fund, correct?
With fund capitalized again.
Yes, got it. Anything
I'll second
else?
the motion that Dave made to make that
Okay,
change.
motion made by,
And incorporate the change to the F in the motion, Tracy. Thank you.
okay, motion made by David, seconded by Tom Koenig, to add land use change tax, conservation, and capitalized fund in the fourth paragraph of Article 8.
Fourth line.
Fourth line, I'm sorry. Fourth line. Okay, we all set on that?
Yeah, we're reaching the point, the wall that we seem to reach, and that's why I'm checking to make sure that during that little break, you guys double check and make sure the tax usage wording or whatever, but again, I'm beginning to feel like one big family. I can tell we're all beginning to fold like a deck of cards.
Yep.
It's coming.
Okay, we all set on this one? Okay. Number 9, we made no corrections to. We're getting down the home stretch here. Number 10, we made one correction, and that is the last sentence. And in parentheses, as prescribed by, we're going to spell out New Hampshire.
Oh, we did have a vote.
Is that be okay with Article 10?
Sorry, Ben was just pointing out, we did have a motion on the table to make those changes to that Article 8, and we never voted on it.
I'm very sorry. Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, motion passes 500. Now we all set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're all set on Article 9. Article 10, the only change that we're making is to the last sentence. New Hampshire, we're going to spell it out. Article 11, on the third sentence down, on the selection of chair and vice chair. After, okay, well, just before it says duly elected by the council, after the period, there's a dash in there. We're going to remove that dash. And then the last sentence, we're going to change that to purposes. Is that the only? Those are the
Only
only.
thing I got.
Okay, good. Okay, Article 12. No corrections? And Article 13, no corrections. We all set on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, it looks like we have finally gotten through this, amazingly. So I will turn it back to Chairman McCray. Thank you.
Okay. Betty, if I could, and I'm asking, not telling, do you feel a motion is in order? Yes, Finley?
You might be getting ready to touch on it, I don't know. I was just wondering if we had to move, or have we moved those?
I was going to ask that even though we may have taken care of it, I was going to ask Betty if she thought it was in line for us to make one big motion to move the warrant forward to the deliberative session.
Absolutely. go right ahead.
Once the changes are made, per the
Yeah.
changes.
One suggestion I think I would make, if the council hasn't done this, and I don't think you have, is to authorize that the 5 chart changes be moved to the ballot, be moved to the deliberative session. Has that been done?
What?
Moving,
We're going to do that right now.
What I'm asking now is we're going to move it all in entirety, that everything on here gets moved, so if we missed anything, it'll all happen. Okay, Betty, you okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, at this time, if it's okay, I would like to make a motion that we move the entire warrant to the ballot, including the changes that were just voted on and that will be made by Keith before we sign it.
Did you just add Articles 1 through 13, so it comes out?
And
Thank you.
to include, which would be Articles 1 through 13 inclusive.
Second.
Motion made by myself, seconded by Betty. Discussion, again, we're just trying to tie it together with a knot, a tight knot. And we've been discussing this for a while, we're bringing it forward. We've made some recommendations, there has been things pointed out. We are short some people tonight, unfortunately, and we will be, after the deliberative session, we'll be having the meeting afterwards, and we'll give the opportunity for the council to go through every item again with the recommendations, in case some of the wording is changed, which makes us change differently. So that's it, we need to move forward to the people. Any other discussion?
Peter,
Yes.
could we also vote to execute the budget? The budget needs to be signed
Right
this
through the
evening.
head? What do you mean execute the budget?
Yeah.
Well, we have to sign it. We have to sign it.
right here.
Oh, okay, that's why I don't have it, right? Because you have it.
So is that different than the warrant?
Yes.
Yes, and
All right, so we need to do
yes.
two I'm going to do two motions, so The first motion will be the one I made to move it forward, and thank you, Betty. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. And then the second motion, and I'll look to you, Betty, to make a motion on the budget for the MS number.
I move, what is the other?
MS6.
That's what I thought, okay. I move that we sign the MS6, which is the budget for posting, this evening.
Motion made by Betty, seconded by Tom. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, this is what I would like to do. We've completed, for the most part, at least another step in the budget process. Again, I don't know why we seem to have a less of a wind. We usually don't begin melting down till 10. But my feeling is, I've spoken to Town Manager Hickey, and he's okay with it. I personally would like to table assessing database and also table the minutes and bring it all the way down to comments from, then bring it all the way down to comments from the council. And then I would put us into recess until such time the changes have been made, and we'll come back and publicly sign the warrant and adjourn. But I personally have no interest in getting into the database thing, and I think it'd be nice to get out of here before 10. That's my feeling. Does anyone object to that?
Nope.
Okay. Then at this time, I would like to make a motion to table new business item number 1 and the minutes. Okay. Motion made by myself, seconded by Tom. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0-0. Comments from the press? I see none. Comments from the public? Yes, Tim. You can get a head start if you want, Keith. I mean, if you do. I don't know if you do or you
You want
don't.
the original? These are the only ones.
Yes, Tim.
Yeah, Tim, 1072 Amherst Road. I understand the sentiment that went into the article in relation to the land use change tax, and I also understand why the article wasn't executed as the voters approved it. I was still hoping, though, that this council would feel obligated to see through and have that study done anyways, and go with the intent that the voters actually asked for, because what the intent of that study was to have enough information so that we could make an informed decision when we voted to make any change to the land use change tax. I understand the intent to put more money back into the general fund, and the whole idea of the land use change is because people have been getting a break on their taxes, and this is an opportunity to replenish the general fund. And I have no argument if that's what the voters want to do, but the idea behind the change at the deliberative session, which I seconded when the motion was made, was that we would have more information and make an informed decision, not make a decision because we all understand our taxes are too high and it's getting more difficult for people to pay those taxes, and this is an opportunity to reduce the tax burden on people. That is a great thing, but if we understand also what that change will do and what the impacts might be, we might decide that it's not the proper thing to do. So I was kind of hoping that you'd follow through, that you would empower the town manager to follow through with the intent of that. Let's have that information. I know it won't be here for the election, but let's get it anyways. Thanks.
Okay, seems, yeah, we usually don't
I
do
know
that,
we
and I
usually
really
don't.
don't.
But if I could very quickly
Yep.
address it, because I believe that I did address it when I was
I'm
speaking.
going to tell you what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I don't want to break precedent. I will allow you to respond when we come around the table to public comments. Are you okay with that? And that way we'll stay in there. Thank you. Okay, comments from the council? Finley?
Actually, I'd like to touch on what Tenhaven just spoke to, and my problem with the way we funded our conservation fund for the purpose of pretty much, buying up open space for the town, is that there's been no real plan. I'd much personally prefer to see with about $1 million in, and going through this coming year, and even after this proposed warrant were to take effect, the funds would still flow into the Conservation Fund. With the money that's there, proposals to come forward would go through a town meeting process, and if funds were short, bonding could take place, and as proposals came forward with a plan on how we will purchase open space, what we would be interested in, and so on, there's plenty of time to take care of those items. So in an effort to use those revenues to a partial degree to offset the property tax rate is, to me, a very appropriate thing and something I've supported for a while. But I appreciate the comments of Tim, and do hope to see a presentation come to the council as to what path the Conservation Commission would be interested in following for open space in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Boy, I agree with you, Finley. One other thing I wanted to mention, since it's an opportunity for announcements, I mentioned last time we were meeting that the first robotics team had completed and shipped their robot. Betty asked to be more specific on the dates, and the competition is next week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday is a sort of a practice set of rounds. Friday is mostly elimination rounds, followed by Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon are the actual final competition of the top 8 teams out of about 50 that'll be there. So if you or 40 or some number, there's a large number. If you have an opportunity to go, any of those days is great. Friday is better than Thursday. Saturday is the most exciting and best day of all to go in and see all of these high school teams competing with their mentors from different companies. BAE is a sponsor for a huge number of schools in the area, probably 8 to 10 or more. And they're a tremendous asset, and they are helping and supporting Merrimack's program as well. So please come out to the Verizon Wireless in Manchester. Friday, if possible. Saturday would be highly recommended. There's no charge for admission. You can't bring any food or drinks in, but that's a Verizon Wireless rule. And support not only Merrimack, but all of the students and mentors that have been working so hard for the past 6 weeks in designing, building, and shipping this robot. Starting in early January, the beginning of the 6 weeks period, knowing nothing about what the requirements were. And so studying the requirements, designing and building the thing from scratch, and being able to ship it by last Tuesday, which is a tremendous feat. And then to get a chance to play the game, which is about a 2.25, maybe 2.5 minute long period, with about a 2.5 minute setup for the next round. So it keeps going very quickly. There's very little downtime. Thank you.
Okay. Betty?
Thank you for those days. So I would presume that the date would be March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have a time on Saturday? That would be the one that I would be most interested in.
Yeah, I think the competition will start about 9 o'clock, and the final competitions will be after lunch. So somewhere in the 1 to 2 range, and be done by 4:30, something like that. Followed by award presentations and everything. So if you could make it probably somewhere, in the early to mid-morning. They're going to be opening the doors, I think, at 8 o'clock, letting the students get in there and get their robots tuned up and open their pit areas and everything, because the vast majority of the work, maintaining the robot, getting it in and out of the competitions and everything, is done by the students. The mentors have done their job in helping them to come up with a design. But it's an incredible thing to get out and watch and see the action and the excitement and the activity of the students in this arena. So 9 or 10 in the morning, going until about 5 in the evening.
And this is at Verizon?
At the Verizon Wireless in Manchester. Mm-hmm. And there's no admission charge.
I think it indicated that. So the big day is Saturday from 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. until mid-afternoon.
That's the final qualifying. Well, mid-afternoon, yeah. 4:30, 5 o'clock is probably when they'll wrap it all up. So.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to state that as far as the land use change tax article, It was never my intent to want to eliminate any type of study that either has started or is to be started. I certainly would support that study. My concern was merely the funding of the fund. So open space, any open space study that comes before us, I would certainly welcome it and encourage it. The other thing I'd like to say is I think that this has been a very long process for all of us. I think that we've put numerous hours into this. We've had many challenges. This is the first year that we've dealt with the new charter and the many changes that occurred with that as far as our responsibilities as a council are concerned. And I would like to thank each and every one of my council members for working together. And I think we were all respectful of each other through this process. I know that there were many times that I had questions. I'm not afraid to say that the charter is something that I read over and over again, but having past experience in the old form of government, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks right away. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think it's going to take more than just one time to actually comprehend everything that's involved in it. But I do want to thank everyone for all your help in getting through this, and hopefully after the deliberative session, we'll be able to get on with some of the other requirements that we need to fulfill before Election Day occurs. So thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
I'm all set, thank you.
I have a couple of things. First things, I'd like to echo the sentiment of Betty. Again, this has certainly by far been my most enjoyable year on the council, probably because I enjoy the chairman so much this time around. But it has been a pleasure to work with this group and to go through a very civilized process. Again, I've mentioned many times, I'll mention it again during this process. Betty has been a mentor to me, as has Tom Mahon, and Finley keeps me honest outside the meetings, and Tom keeps me honest inside the meetings, so I can't ask for much more than that. Again, I've enjoyed it very, very much this time around. And I want to take a chance to plug what I had plugged early at the meeting. Again, I believe there's a bunch of committed citizens in this town that have decided to put up or shut up, and what I mean by that is that they think there should be more work done educating the voters and letting people know what's going on, and they've done a lot of work on a site called merrimackvotes.org, merrimackvotes.org. And again, I've looked at it, and it's great. I mean, today you look at it, it tells you the hearing being held today, where. The other day there was a hearing at the MVD. I'm hoping that as people sign up to run, you know, it'll be there also, but it says what's running. But it's a very well done site, and as I've mentioned, my understanding is purely informational, and it is not being used to lobby any cause. And for that reason, I full-fledgedly support it, and I think people will learn a lot by going to it. I plan on going to it to keep up, so I recommend it. And last, change use tax. I appreciate what you said, Tim. I have to admit I'm very disappointed in, not you, but in the way it went on last year. I agree. I don't like the deliberative session. If I had my way, it'd go the way of the horse and buggy, but it's still there, which means people seem to manipulate it, some better than others. That's their right. Sometimes I like when they manipulate it because I like what they do, and then other times I don't like it because they're smarter than me. But with all that being said, we did something. I personally believe there was nothing but a stall tactic last year, and what makes me really believe it is once it happened, no one that was speaking for it got up and did anything to make this study happen. And now a year later, people are saying, well, we have to have the study. So I expect that will be the tactic that people will use at the deliberative session. And again, as long as it's the law of the land, that's the way it'll work. But it was a stall tactic then. I expect the same now. And I don't think there's anything wrong with open land. There's nothing wrong with using some of it to help the taxpayers. But again, the people will speak at the deliberative session, and maybe this time the voters will get a chance to speak, or maybe they won't. Okay. At this time, I will recognize Paul McCallie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I would ask the board is that they also vote to recommend the default budget. You also have to sign that.
Okay, so
No, you voted the MS6. That's a separate document, the approval.
okay.
Please.
At this time, I'll take a motion from Mr. Mahon, or anyone else who would like to make it, to approve the default budget.
Move to recommend the default budget.
Second.
Motion made by Tom, seconded by Betty. Tom, any discussion?
None.
All those in favor of recommending the default budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 5-0-0. Paul, you got anything else?
No, this is the MS6. I was just going to lay it out on the table.
Well, yeah. Last time I signed papers like that, I was in the Army for 3 years.
Did I?
I did.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, Tom signed that one.
Okay, what else do we have?
This is the MS6.
Bring it
Okay,
on.
all
Are we
right,
going in recess?
yeah. At this time, I will go into recess till the call of the chair, and that'll be when the final warrant comes up. And my recommendation would be that during the recess, we may want to sign this one coming around, so that when Keith comes, we can all get out. But we are in recess at 9:35. So if I have to sit behind the big mic, I'll be able to put my arms around my buddies and all sign. Hi, who has it now? Finley, or you don't seem to be reading much, Finley?
No, that's,
True copy attested to certification. That's the.
This is the real one?
That's the.
And Betty signed it, so I'm good.
No, don't do that to me. I went by everything that we had and I just ripped it up because I wanted to make sure I didn't get confused. We've had so many
what the hell am I
warrants.
signing here? Gosh. I'm telling you, this.
He made me sign my own thing with him before he took the job, believe me. That I'm out of here April 12th, one way or the other, from the chairman's seat.
Well, at least the public heard nothing I said because I just realized that my mic was off. So while we finish executing this, can we just adjourn?
I say we do it publicly as the
Okay.
thing, and then we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, but we have so many polling places now. We have to post them at the polling places. It's not like
Paul?
our days, Finley.
You're real comfortable with the numbers on this contract, right? Because that's the killer. That's the one.
Yes.
All right?
Should be 5 signatures on everything. McCrae's, okay.
What's members chair?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually gonna want them.
That was always the scariest part of that meeting, everybody signed. No, you don't have to sign those. You get handed those. Believe me.
Okay, we're about ready to wrap this up. Finley has given his final okay. He requested to be the last one to sign it. Okay, before I ask for adjournment, again, thank you everyone, a special thanks to Tom Mahon for all the work he did in the charter work, getting it on the warrant, and again, extremely heavy thanks for everything Betty does every day and all the work she did preparing the warrant and getting it ready for us. And again, to Mr. Hickey for being there.
For making the corrections to the final warrant.
Okay, at this time, this is being posted tomorrow? Okay, at this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Tom, seconded by Betty.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. See you all next Thursday, 7 PM, non-public.
5 signatures on everything?